In this lesson video, we are going to cover different methods of deleting mesh elements when inside the edit mode. Before we get into the details, there is something that I need to explain first. One of the beginner's mistakes when trying to delete an object from a scene is deleting them inside the edit mode. This is a huge mistake. You need to differentiate between deleting in the object mode and deleting in the edit mode. Currently, I have this cube selected and inside the edit mode. Let's say after doing some modeling, I decided to trash the model. So I press A to select all, and then press X, and then choose vertices here. It seems that nothing is wrong. But if you look at the outliner, the cube object still exists. So basically, what I just did is only deleting the geometry or the mesh, but the container of it, which is the cube object, still exists. In this condition, if you go back out to the object mode, it will be very hard for you to select the cube anymore, since it doesn't have any visual representation in the viewport. However, you can still select it via the outliner and then delete it. But it is always better to avoid this situation from the beginning. So just remember to go back to the object mode and then delete the object from there if you want to delete the whole object, okay? In the object mode, when you press X to delete an object, you will only get one question to confirm, whether you want to delete it or not. In the edit mode, however, pressing X will prompt you with so many options. We have ordinary delete operations such as vertex, edge, or face delete. Or we can also use dissolve options or limited dissolve, or these two options down here. So which one should we choose? A quick easy beginner's rule is this. If you are in the vertex mode, when you delete, you need to choose vertices from the delete panel. If you are in the edge mode, then you need to choose edges. And finally, if you are in the face mode, you need to choose faces. So for example, if we are in the vertex mode, after selecting a vertex or several vertices like this and then hit X, you should choose vertices here. Notice the vertices that we have selected before are now removed. Now deleting mesh elements with the ordinary delete operations will create a hole in the geometry. Sometimes this is not what we want. This is where the dissolve operations come in handy. Dissolve will remove certain elements, but will maintain the integrity of the geometry. Basically, dissolve will not create a hole as delete does. For example, let's pick this vertex, press X, and choose dissolve vertex. As we expected, the vertex is gone, but the geometry is preserved. We can do this with edges and faces also. For example, let's select this edge, press X, then dissolve edges. For the face, let's go to the face mode and select these three faces. Press X and then choose dissolve faces. I am sure you get the idea here. If you want to use the shortcut, you can use Ctrl X to dissolve any selected elements instantly. So for example, let's go to the edge mode, hold Alt and click in here to select an edge loop. Now press Ctrl X and you can see the edge loop is dissolved. The main idea of limited dissolve is dissolving elements automatically based on the angle threshold. Limited dissolve is very useful for cleaning up geometry. For example, I already have a cube with so many vertices and edges on each side of it. But you notice that these vertices really doesn't do anything. I mean, it doesn't contribute to the overall shape of the geometry. This kind of condition is a perfect example for making use of the limited dissolve. Let's select all of the elements. You can be in vertex or edge or face selection mode to use limited dissolve. It doesn't really matter. Then press X, choose limited dissolve in here. Now we have this clean cube with only mesh elements that matters to the form of the geometry. If we look at the operator panel, we have the maximum angle threshold here. Any mesh elements exist that form an angle under this degree value will be dissolved together. To see this more clearly, let's delete this cube object and create a new UV sphere object. Go to the edit mode and select all of the elements. press X, and choose Limited Dissolve. Notice when I increase the max angle value, the higher the threshold, the more faces considered as flat, so more elements get dissolved together. The All Boundaries option here is used to automatically dissolve vertices that only have two edges connected to it. So for example, this one and this one, both of these vertices only have two edges connected to it. That is why they are removed or dissolved. The next option is the Delimit type. Essentially, this option will prevent faces from joining when they don't share certain properties. By default, it is set to normal, which basically just using the angle threshold up here without any additional limiter. We can use material, seam, sharp, and UV to limit the dissolve operation. Now we haven't discussed UV or seam yet, but we already discussed material and edge sharp feature. So let's try using the sharp delimiter option here. Just click on an empty space, and then Ctrl Z several times until we have the original UV sphere. Now go to the edge mode, Alt-click on this edge, then Shift, Alt, click on this edge. Right-click and then choose Mark Sharp. This will mark the two selected edge loops to be sharp. Press A to select all, then press X and then choose Limited Dissolve. Don't forget to turn on the Sharp Delimit option here so we can see the difference. As we increase the maximum angle value, we can see Blender will always try to respect the edge loops that are marked as sharp. The next delete feature is the edge collapse. Basically, this will merge all of the edges that are selected into a single vertex. For example, if I select this edge, then press X and then edge collapse, the previous edge will become a single vertex. Now if we have multiple edges like this selected, applying edge collapse will make each of them turned into a vertex. Now if we have a ring selection like this, applying the edge collapse operation will create a new edge loop in the center. If you need to use this feature a lot, you can use the shortcut which is Alt-M and then choose Collapse from the Merge pop-up menu. The last delete operation is the edge loop command. This will remove an edge loop and then patch the surrounding faces. More or less, it produces similar results with the Dissolve Edges command up here. The only difference is that if you use the edge loop command, after the operation is performed, Blender will select all of the faces surrounding the previous edges. For example, if we use the Dissolve Edges command, we can see the resulting faces are not selected. But let me undo this. If we use the edge loop command instead, we have the same geometry result, but the faces are selected. This can be useful if later you want to extrude or do other modeling operations on these faces.